3, 2, 1.
And good afternoon, or morning, whenever you're watching this, but it is afternoon for us. It is March 26th, 2020, and this is the Commissioners Check-In coming to you live, and there's conference calling as well. And I'm going to turn this over to, you're going to give out the phone number.
Yeah, and
I'm going to turn this over to the county manager. Oh, let's do introductions. John Hutchings, the chair of the board.
Hi, Menser.
Gary Edwards.
Ramiro Chavez.
Robin Campbell.
And
Amy Davis.
Amy. So thank you for being here, and big change in the format, and I'm going to have Romero explain it to everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. This is the result of the governor amending the stay-at-home order, and this is related to the Open Public Meetings Act, OPMA, in which the governor waived some of the requirements, in which in this case when the board meets, you're not required to have access to the public available on when you meet. It also put another options as to how we need to exercise access, public access to the commissioners' meetings. One, for those who are watching, we live stream this meeting, and we'll continue to live stream every single meeting the board will meet until this emergency eases. Also, we have made available a conference call. Whomever wants to join, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the access code is 1234. Again, the dial number is 360-252-9020, and the access code is 1234. Also, we will be placing this information in every single agenda that will be published every time the board meets. Access to, via the conference call, whomever wants to join, it will be up to the purview of the chair whether any citizens will have to provide direct comment to the board. And that's all I have in terms of how we're going to be changing the format in the meantime.
So I just want to reiterate the phone number for conference calling is 360-252-9020, and then you enter 1234, and you'll join in so you can listen if you're not watching it on TV. But this is not meant to be an audience participation. We have a list of agenda items we get to chat about and talk about and educate ourselves on. So I hope the public doesn't have expectation that you're going to call in and start engaging in discussion and debate. It's not the format. But we welcome you to call. And on the phone, in fact, we have Elizabeth Petrich, I understand, our deputy prosecuting attorney.
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody else online? Are we going to hear them when they chime in? Somebody dials in? We can hear a ping?
Usually we get a signal.
Okay.
Yeah, and at that point, I can probably ask who's joined us, just to make
Thank
sure.
you. Questions or comments, Commissioner?
Is the phone number going to always be the same and the code always the same? So from now on, we're going to do this periodically. Is it always going to be the same?
That's my understanding, sir.
Okay, and then possibly because they can't participate verbally, is there any chance we could give out our web address or something for those that want to send comments in that we can address it?
Yeah,
I would ask Brian if it is scrolling or streaming on the bottom of the live stream. That's a good idea because they can still contact us via email or call and leave messages or even the United States Post Office.
that has not changed.
That's not changed.
That has not changed.
No, I
This-
just want,
yeah.
because we're not taking comments, I want the public to know that they're going to be able to get their comment in if they so desire.
So under the shelter-in-place order from the governor, this is still showing a great deal of transparency in the government. People can see us, they can hear us, they can listen to us online, they can still contact us in any number of fashions. And this is the best we can do until we get through this. Any questions or comments?
Just that I spent a good chunk of today corresponding with citizens by email on various issues, so feel free to, if you haven't, most people know how to do that, but if you haven't, make sure that, you reach us that way, because that's the best way to get around this whole complexity of the open public meetings and
Yep.
closing of county facilities, et cetera.
But government moves on.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else? No?
Nope.
Okay, then let's begin. The first thing on the agenda is COVID-19 discussion.
Yeah, you're aware that we, in the last 24 hours, we had an additional 10 cases, confirmed cases. So the numbers are keep climbing. Perhaps at this time, we may have new additional cases, but I have not received any confirmation of additional cases.
So let me interrupt you. As of 3 o'clock yesterday, we were at 14. So what I'm hearing, there's 24
Yeah,
now?
right now, I believe it's 24, yes.
24 in Thurston County, and 0 deaths.
So far.
Isn't 3 p.m. the update time?
Yeah, this should be coming up. So as soon as we get additional information, I will let you know. But that's what I know for now. But I'd like to probably talk with you on a couple of items related to the COVID-19. If
Question?
I do have a question for the county manager on this report.
Yeah. After the report currently?
How many of those 24 that have tested positive have recovered from that virus issue? How many were in the hospital? Maybe some were treated at home.
Yeah.
Are we also keeping track as to how many have recovered?
Yeah, and in fact, on the 10, obviously, on the initial 10, I believe 4 ended up in the hospital, and all 4 were released from the hospital. So I assume they have recovered. Also, I would assume that recovery is ongoing, but I don't have the hard numbers based on the new cases.
Have we had deaths related by any chance to other flu issues or something that will not be directly related to this, just to kind of give us a comparison?
The last number that we received related to deaths in Thurston County as a result of the influenza. So far in the year was only 5, but that's the last number that I had.
Okay, thank you.
So a couple of procedurals. I have a letter for you to read and perhaps sign. This is related to the request from Ms. Chris Wells and Ms. Mindy Rulli, related to the briefing they presented to you on March 19, requested funding for the COVID-19 response fund. I will pass this your way, which explains, I believe, your direction to contribute towards this effort of about $75,000.
Thank you.
Also, I have another letter as a result of your conversation on Tuesday as well, and that is the letter to the Salvation Army. And the gist of this letter is to urge the Salvation Army to open their facilities for additional shelter. Also, I'd like to provide you, this morning we received on the national news the increase in unemployment rates in the country, and there was probably over 3 million in the last week. So this chart, thank you for the Assistant County Manager, gives you a perspective for unemployment rates in Thurston County.
Thank you, Denise. Denise Doty had found this information and sent it to us.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah. I've got one, Romero, thank you.
So as expected, and I think that it goes on the national trend, is a significant increase in if the public can see the chart, I don't think the numbers is relevant at this point, but the graphic shows the impact of this crisis has on the employees. Would you like to elaborate on that, Robin?
I would just say that, our normal week of new claims is less than 500, and last week we saw over 4,500 new initial unemployment claims. It's an extreme increase. We're all hopeful that it is a temporary condition.
Yeah, and whether the stimulus package the Congress passed yesterday, and hopefully the House will pass tomorrow, will have an effect on this. Maybe, but the claims will continue to increase. I think in the back end, it's going to be a help for those individuals who are employed. But at least from my point of view, the rates or the claims will increase because more people will be unemployed.
We're expecting this number to go up substantially, so we'll have a weekly number for you.
Okay, I just want to finish this last letter.
Sure.
Does it matter which one we sign?
No, if we have any comments, I'll be more than happy to review.
I just have one comment. On the letter to Chris Wells and Mindy Rule, the first sentence should be the Thurston County Board of Commissioners, rather than Commissioner.
Okay.
Other than that, that's great. And I finished this one too for Salvation Army.
Is Mindy's name spelled? I don't feel like it's UE instead of EU. Double check that.
Okay, I'll double check.
I mean-
But I thought I'd look at the website, but probably my fingers were off on.
Strange spelling, but just because
So we'll make those revisions.
otherwise I'm doing it.
So if I can circulate the letter of the Salvation Army for signatures, then we can get that going, and I'll fix the changes on the other one. So if you feel okay, comfortable, I can just put your electronic signatures on that after we made those changes and check the name.
It's the way of the world now. So what were we saying about these numbers that Denise found?
That there's an increase of over 4,000 initial claims compared to the week prior. And we expect the numbers to continue to go up. And this is the number of initial claims. It's not the number of people on unemployment in Thurston County. It's not the
Thank you.
amount of money being paid out. It is just how many people came in and claimed for the first time last week. And the numbers are extreme, and we expect them to be more next week. And we'll give you a weekly update.
Have any Thurston County employees lost their jobs?
No Thurston County employee has been laid off due to the stay-at-home order.
Good. Well, I'm not gonna spike the football and start doing a victory dance, but I'm very happy to hear that. And we're very happy to spend
Our
that.
employees are happy about that.
Very happy, yeah.
What a great segue to my next item.
Oh. And we have to rehearse this. I don't even know you. Thank you, sir. Oh, look at that, nice.
So the chart that I provided to you is all the current vacancies that we currently have, job opportunities that we currently have. There's perhaps there are other vacancies in the county. They have not been advertised, so this may not reflect this chart. The reason that I'm bringing to your attention is I continue to be concerned as to how the county finances will be after this crisis eases or perhaps passes. And so I'd like to run by you the potential to put a hiring freeze for the next 4 months. In a hiring freeze, it will be not as a blanket. It will be a hiring freeze for those who are not related to public safety. In those positions, they have a direct relation to responding to this emergency. This is an idea that I'm like to float by you, because I believe at this point, if there's anything that we can do to, first of all, curtail any expenditures. And also, we don't know how the financial situation will be in the county, for the county next, by the fall. And I don't think at this point will be fruitful to bring a new employee to the county without knowing if that employee could have a job. And I don't know how else I can really express this, my concern, because you're gonna have to take and make perhaps difficult decisions in the fall related to the county finances. So anyways, my proposal is to put a 4-month hiring freeze for some positions, not all. And the positions will be obviously public safety. We need to continue to exercise that, at least from my point of view. And maybe for positions that are related to the response of this emergency. And this is just a suggestion, open for your direction, your perspective.
Do you have a perspective before we chime in or
I
ask
do have a
questions?
perspective, and my perspective is probably different from the county managers. In my experience, hiring freezes don't work, and they don't work for two major reasons. The first is there is always an exception to the position that's open, and the second is that if we have to go into a layoff, positions that are being held on a hiring freeze are often not the positions that you would lay off. So if you do, given that, it is of course your prerogative, and we put a clause in the budget that will enable the board to enact a hiring freeze. So if you choose to do so, I would recommend that we go to something that the county was doing when I arrived and there was hiring freeze, that it applied to every office and department, and you do a review process where the board would grant exceptions on a case-by-case basis. I can also tell you that we did that for 3 or 4 years when I was first here, and there was maybe one position in that time that was actually denied hiring, which is part of why I say that these freezes are not effective. So that's my person. Oh, we review multiple positions every week.
Okay.
With we being myself and the county manager at that time, would review every week the list of requests that we got with the Board of County Commissioners, and they all got approved.
So you're saying you're suggesting a freeze, but you're suggesting not a freeze, but on a case-by-case basis.
I'm suggesting that if you should go to a freeze, it should be with an exception process.
I've got a question, I know you do.
And just to build up on the history, and because there was a lot of positions, the board at that time was yes. Now, it became a very cumbersome process.
Yes, it was.
That at that point, the board delegated that decision to the county manager, which is still in place. So in this case, I approve any positions, and I looked with the comment of from the budget perspective, comments from the director, but I only approve those positions within the appointed directors. I did not approve advertising those positions from the elected offices. That's not part of my purview.
If there are other ways to save money, for example, you could direct offices and departments to set a percentage of their appropriation in reserve and make it not available for spending, and allow those offices and departments how they're gonna get there. And then leave it up to them whether or not they need to fill positions that they think are essential. But if you're gonna go to a hiring freeze in order to address an economic downturn, they're, again, in my opinion, they're not effective. Not only at the county, that was my experience at the state as well. There was a period of time when every position went to the director of OFM for approval, and I saw him deny 2 out of, we called it FTE court. We were doing it every week and they didn't get turned down.
We have a host of questions, but to set the kind of the tone, rather than us sitting in a bubble here and making that decision, we would include the electeds in a discussion on this, wouldn't we?
That's all within your purview.
It's all.
That's within your purview.
Okay, yeah, I would hate to come up with a big blanket without incorporating their views and such. Go ahead, Ty, and I'll get to you.
I just have a question about, in terms of hiring freeze, and I'm not saying this to, I'm just asking for information. Like overtime freeze, like I know that the jail population's down 20%, and I know that corrections overtime is a huge thing. Is that something that's, would be in this universe of options? Or is, I mean, we obviously have to talk to the sheriff about what his needs are. But I'm just asking if that's something that should be discussed in the same conversation.
That might be a little more difficult to put our hands around, Commissioner, because then you get into the operations of an office and the operations of the department. That it will be extremely, at least from my point of view, difficult to say no overtime, limited the
That
overtime.
hasn't been done in the past.
I've not seen anything like that
Okay.
anywhere in my 30-some years.
When you said hiring freezes don't work, and the first thing you said is there's an exception to every open position, I don't know what that means.
So just looking at this list, and starting at the top, I don't know where this particular accounting analyst is. Let's say for a moment, it's the one that I know is open in central services. That is a 3-member team, and both the accounting analysts just took different jobs, and there is no way that we can allocate countywide costs with just the one accountant in central services. If we don't have this, our financial picture countywide will be at risk. So I would ask you for an exception. And if you don't grant that, I would ask you how you expect us to get the work done.
So you're just saying that this list doesn't reflect superfluous positions that where people are getting by.
No.
A good number of them are like
critical.
absolutely have to be filled.
Exactly.
Each one of them, and I think that was a good dry run, what Robin went through, because each position will have an argument.
Every position has an argument, and if I were as the central services director in my role, I would be looking for other ways to save money or other positions to do without not this accounting analyst. So, and that's what you would hear from
And you're
each
saying
person.
you'd rather be told not to spend some amount, and then you could decide whether or not that person not being filled is the easiest way to save that amount of money or some other way.
That is my personal position on this, yes. So I appreciate that the county manager has brought this forward and we can have a robust conversation about it. And hiring freezes are a standard tool that are used in these times. So it's not uncommon to have these conversations.
Yeah, and in fact, I just had a conversation with the city managers just before this meeting, and all have implemented hiring freezes. And I was expecting this reaction, but I think it's worth having the conversation.
I agree.
Because if it's not something, but at least is there something that we can do at this point? Because my concern continues to grow as the days go by. And the concerns that I have is really how the board is going to be in the position to make decisions for 21 and 22.
Sure, Commissioner?
I just don't wanna get into telling other elected offices
how to conduct their business. I don't think that's within our bailiwick. I realize we might have to make budget reductions if we don't have revenue. But I'll just use as an example, Superior Court Coordinator. That's the last one on the list here. How are we gonna know? And we put something in place like that, then we spend a lot more money maybe in another area because of confusion that doesn't get addressed. I don't know what that position does. I'm just using that as an example that I think it makes more sense, maybe a percentage that you're talking about, but a letter to all the elected officials that, I mean, they know something's gonna happen. They're very intelligent individuals, so let them know what we're gonna be up against as far as a potential. Because we actually don't know what's gonna happen. We always plan for the worst kind of, but we really don't know. I mean, I'm gonna continue to push to try to keep the economic engine running in this community through regulatory reform. That's gonna be my mantra. You're gonna hear that quite often until we see where we're at, and if we can't increase the job opportunities in Thurston County and keep things going, whether it's building or other activity. So I'm all for a letter. I don't know where it's gonna lead, but I do believe that hiring freezes, if we decide on hiring freezes, that they should only apply to offices that are under the control of the board or the county manager.
Any response to that before I weigh in?
No, I'm gonna rest fine tonight
Please.
because I brought this to your attention.
I would respond to that in that, while I do agree that elected officials are in a position to make certain choices, the bulk of our general fund employees are in elected offices, separately elected offices, rather than our departments. And so to implement a hiring freeze with the goal of mitigating the impact on the general fund and not including the elected departments would be, in my opinion, completely ineffective.
So, I know that the state does not like it when the federal government puts unfunded mandates or underfunded mandates on the state. We don't like it when the state does it to us. We're gonna have you do this work, but we're not gonna give you the money for it. So explain it to me, because it's sticking in my head that if we ask the departments or offices to put money aside and then use that if you need to fill something behind it, is that like an unfunded mandate? You're skinny in your budget as it is, but we're gonna ask you to put that stuff aside to fill when you need it, because we're not gonna give you any more money, we're not gonna let you hire. So is that like an unfunded mandate? And then if we were to exempt like public safety, like the sheriff's office, you'll hear me, as you talk about the economic engine, I don't wanna lose any sheriff deputies. And they have a slew, I don't know what that slew means, half a dozen, 8 or so that are leaving at the end of the year, retiring. They're gonna be sorely hurting. So I would need to know the exemption, to what extent that plays out as well.
I would, from my perspective, it would not be an unfunded mandate in the sense that you're not directing an officer department to do a specific task without giving them any money for that task. You might not give them enough money, but there would still be funding. And it is the duty of the Board of County Commissioners to allocate scarce resources, and there's never enough money for everything the government is supposed to do. So I would say giving them less with the latitude to determine how to allocate those funds within their officer department would not constitute an unfunded mandate. Now, if you should decide to exempt a specific office or department, such as the sheriff's office, that is within your purview on how to distribute a cutback or any type of reduction in appropriation.
So real quick, if an employee leaves, that office or department then would put that salary savings in that special fund? Or
No,
what, they're
No,
just taking existing
what
budget
I'm
and putting it aside?
suggesting is just, let's say, and I'm just gonna pick on the coroner, because I know that the coroner's budget is roughly $1 million. It's a nice round number to work with. I'm not suggesting anything about the coroner, but
Last year.
if you had a $1 million budget, the board could say, set aside 5% of that. And what is that, 5?
50,000. 50,000.
Thank you. I haven't been getting enough sleep. Set aside 50,000, not 50,000 if you have a vacancy, not 50,000 if just, we know an economic downturn's coming, please set aside $50,000 that you'll be anticipated to revert back to the general fund and not spend until we know where this thing's going. And I would say to do that for everyone. And that would not be related to positions whatsoever. And then the director or elected official, it would be on them to figure out how to spend a little less.
So in effect, it's a budget reduction.
Yes.
Because we're saying, just for the example, your example, is to take that money, set it aside with the intent it's gonna get reverted.
Right. That's
It
right.
may not, but it may.
Right. Now, the hope is that because we had some money that I was suggesting to you to put into an emergency reserve, that we would have that money available to us, not only to spend in response to the emergency, but also to weather the downturn. And the offices and departments, while they might remain flat, would not have to cut. That is the hope, and that's why, one of the reasons you have an emergency reserve is to weather the storm.
Okay.
Well, I was just picking up on your idea of having a meeting with the elected officials. I mean, I've been here a year. There's some of the elected officials have been here 30 years, like the prosecutor, for example. I mean, I wouldn't mind to sit at a table and say, we intend to take a measure, but let us know what works for you. And I don't just want to get them to send an email. I'd like them to sit at a table, looking at each other and looking at us and hear each other's ideas and debate amongst themselves in our presence what they think the right measure is for us to take. And so I would be supportive of that idea.
Maybe our next elected officials lunch will have more folks here.
The lunch will be over the phone.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
after we get over this, social distancing
Well,
process.
what kind of time frame are you looking at?
So I achieved my objective,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, because my objective is to start thinking, in all of us, including you as legislative authority, as to how this impact is gonna be felt in the county. And whether it's some of the options, having a conversation with elected officials, and you want to put some parameters. We have a meeting scheduled next week related to the budget, where we can continue to have those conversations and perhaps with additional numbers. I was not expecting for you to, hoo-hoo, hooray, hooray, but at least start having these conversations, because those conversations will continue on through the rest of the year. Thank you.
Gary, anything more on this topic, though?
I guess the only thing I'd say is, there's, I don't know, last I heard, I think there's 150 billion earmarked for the 2,000 counties or so that are in the country, and I don't think that's been decided, what that money is gonna go towards and who's gonna get what. I would guess Washington's in a little better shape, say, than Wyoming, because I don't think they've got much going on in Wyoming. We were one of the first states to have a problem for whatever reason, so let's not be too premature.
No.
Let's be aware, but let's not, the sky isn't falling just yet, but let's watch for some clouds coming in.
Well, I was asked about that, and I know you don't know the answer, it was a rhetorical question about the funding from the feds coming in. What and when, and where would that land that might benefit Thurston County? Again, it's rhetorical unless you have an answer.
I don't have an answer.
I didn't think so, yeah.
We are daily trying to figure that out.
The National Association of Counties represents us in that regard, and I think they're gonna do pretty good.
Well, it's food for
Yeah.
thought, but it's also, kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you have to deal with it. But are you supportive of having a meeting with the elected and getting their input?
Certainly.
Okay. Well, we got that anyway.
As far as the money coming in goes, one of the rather disconcerting things that I learned this morning was the $1 million that we just received from the Department of Commerce. That money has non-supplant and a clause that should we receive federal money for the same purpose, we have to pay it back.
Pay it back.
So it's not like we're gonna have a lot of money rolling in. A lot of it's got payback clauses and that all has non-supplant, so it's, and FEMA is limited on what they will pay. We are also hearing from our grantors that none of them will approve payment for the paid administrative leave. So that's gonna be completely out of county funds. But we are constantly, all day long, looking at these finance issues.
So to end this conversation, if you're done, then would be that no county employee has lost his or her job, and we have not reduced any pay or taken any benefits from any employee. And at this point in time, we're knocking on wood. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what?
That's all I have for
Now
you.
it's a free-for-all?
Those
Now
are
we-
the COVID items.
Is that it? Okay. So now we have commissioners' items. I know you have some, I've got a couple, and you have some. Let's just rotate that way. Go ahead, Ty, with yours.
Well, I know typically this check-in is about our boards and commissions, so I'll start with that. There's a couple requests that relate to the BHO or BHA that I thought the board, I didn't respond to them, but I
That was
thought
about videotaping?
there was that video one, and there was the one about the grant for the triage facility.
Okay, yeah.
And I just thought that the board ought to be addressing that before I responded.
And I have the videotape on my list to bring in. I just got off the phone on the way in with Wasack on that issue.
What's the ask? Or what they want? I mean, they talked about the governor, but then it said to contact our legislators. I wasn't sure exactly what I should do. That one I'm
So-
supportive of, and I just don't know how.
So the issue is doing with the Involuntary Treatment Act, having the hearing be videotaped and not face-to-face or in person. And so there's no rule that there's no wording that allows it. And last month I talked with presiding Judge Eric Price about it. And he said, oh yeah, good, we have to talk about that. And I haven't heard back from him, and he wasn't supposed to get back. It was just like one of those kind of floating conversations. Let's look into it. But now it's becoming an issue because we have ITA, Involuntary Treatment Act, ITA hearings that need to happen. And counties are concerned with the lockdown and shut in and shelter in place. How are we gonna have in-person, face-to-face commitment hearings for these individuals who have the right to have a hearing? And so Wasack and counties were looking at, well, what do we do? We need the governor to weigh in on this. So I talked with Juliana Rowe with Wasack, an attorney, and she said Whatcom County is doing in-camera the video hearings, and Snohomish County is doing the video hearings, not face-to-face, and they're just doing it on their own. There's a parameter around that. And Benton County is working on doing that now, but they don't even have video equipment, so trying to set that up fast and furious so they can do the ITA hearings in a reasonable, timely fashion, as is mandated by law. She suggested that we work with the defense bar, the prosecutor, and the judges If they all agree to do it, we don't have to have wording of an exemption or permission from the governor. We just do it. But it would take the judge, it would take the court, the prosecutor, and the defense bar to all agree it's a good idea and to do it. That's where it's left. But they're still, they being Wasac, is still as the lobby group for the county, are still asking the governor to weigh in on it, please. But she says in the meantime, it's being done and going to be done in Benton. But she said if we have this consortium weighing in on it, saying it's a good idea, we can do that. That's where that conversation was left.
Mark's email, it's a little different from what you're saying. Mark's email was talking about a bill that passed that
So the
said,
implement center,
well, he says, I'll just read it.
Yeah.
This legislative session, House Bill 2099, was passed and the governor signed it into law. This bill allows video evaluations by DCRs, designated crisis responders, to be accepted in involuntary treatment court in place of face-to-face evaluation. So kind of the evidentiary piece of the proceeding, not the proceeding itself, but just allowing this video evidence to support the petition. This bill goes into effect on June 17th. So it's all about just speeding that up. They want to basically get the fact that start doing this now. That was passed with COVID, had nothing to do with COVID-19. It was just something they thought was a good idea and a streamlining piece to begin with. But now with COVID-19, there's this need to do it. The pandemic has had a serious impact on availability of DCRs. The only way we can maintain a healthy crew of staff is by minimizing face-to-face evals. The WHO groups have been in touch with the Healthcare Authority and all the stakeholders. All are in support of immediate implementation of this House bill, but we need the governor to make this an emergency proclamation. So it's jump-starting a law that was passed, but trying to get immediate implementation
rather than waiting till June.
rather than having to
And
wait.
that's what Julianne was saying, if we have the trio, the judge, prosecutor, and defense on board with it, then she said do it, because
Okay.
DCRs are falling sick, and they can't respond.
Yeah.
DCR being a designated crisis responder that can involuntarily take someone into custody. And so she said, yeah, there's an urgent need for it. So that's what they're asking. They're still asking to speed it up, an emergency, make it quicker.
But I think
they're
that's
doing it in the
why,
meantime.
that's the context of why the lawyer would be saying, go ahead and do it, is that it's been approved and passed. Everyone's in favor of it. It's just a matter of speeding it up by like 2 months or whatever.
Right.
So I'm not sure what it is that we should do then.
So I called, on the way in, after I got off the phone with Julianne, I called, Judge Price. And I got a voicemail. So I'll be in contact with Pam or him to make this, at least talk with them and see where we are with that. And I don't know, I can call Patrick and or John Thunheim. I just figured I'll start with the presiding judge.
Okay.
To see what he said. He didn't seem opposed to it, but there's work to be done, discussions. Yes, sir.
What are those other jurisdictions that have just moved ahead with this? Have they talked with all parties and everybody is in agreement? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's what that was passed on to me, yeah.
Okay.
They worked with the judges, the court, the prosecutor, and the defense bar. They all agreed and they're doing it.
I'm all for doing it under those same conditions.
Okay, well, I'll impart that information to whomever I speak with at the court and or the prosecutor and defense. Tell them to get together, doggone it. Okay. Go ahead. You have another item?
Well, the other one that was related was that there was a request about supporting a grant. Mark has had different ideas, I guess, over time of to get money to expand the triage center to 16 beds. And I thought we were moving toward using it as, there's been discussions at the BHO of trying to recapture the original purpose, use it as a short-term triage for law enforcement drop-off. Mark thought there was an opportunity there because of this, the EMS changeover and funding, but it was gonna require some negotiation with Telecare or whatever. So I've been kind of waiting for good news or bad news on that.
Yeah.
And then we get this email saying, oh, I have this totally different idea we're gonna use it for developmentally disabled and stuff. And I mean, not that I don't support getting money to do something with it, but that's not what I really wanted to see
Right, that
the
change.
direction to go. So I didn't respond to that yet, and I just wanted to just lay my concern out there. Not that I wanna impede the ability to get money, but and I asked Mark, I said, does that mean the original idea is dead? And he hasn't responded to that email. Although I've gotten other emails from him, so I'm not sure if he doesn't wanna answer that question or what, but I didn't know if you had heard anything about that change of direction.
No, and we, the BHA, suspended the March meeting, and now there's going to be an April meeting going to be scheduled, and Mark Friedman wanted to know if we wanted to do it in person, teleconference, but he said there's issues that need to be addressed and decisions need to be made. So my latest email to him, which was I think yesterday or last night, was we should have it. If there's stuff to be done, we have to have a meeting. I don't mind going in because we sit far enough apart at the BHA that it's the social distancing isn't an issue. Kevin Schutte from Shelton can call in if he wants to, and even Mark, who lives up in Seattle, he can teleconference if he wants to. Although there's no traffic for him anymore on the S5. And, but I haven't heard back from him yet. But I said, yeah, we need to have that meeting one way. So that would be a topic of discussion at that meeting. What's the change in direction?
He didn't have a timeline in that
What
email,
are we
so
doing?
I didn't know
Right.
what he needed, when he needed information by.
So I can't give you more information.
Okay, I'm just checking in with you guys.
I'm with you on moving ahead with exactly what you laid out.
See what we can do.
Go ahead. Your turn.
Well, it looks like we're going to talk about some issues that I'm gonna bring up in April, is April 24th, our retreat?
Yeah.
Is that it? Do we know how many hospital beds that we're utilizing right now for this COVID issue, for the virus issue?
I don't know that.
Would Shelley know that?
Between two hospitals?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, that was the concern, that we were gonna overload the system. So I'd like to start keeping track of where are we at on that system. I mean,
Maybe 24?
I would bet somebody has that information.
what's that? No, there's 24 that have been diagnosed. Some of those folks are at home sheltering and
Okay.
taking care of themselves. I think we need to know that so that
I
we can
agree.
see if we're developing into a problem, because I don't know,
Yeah,
got the post up there that could put a MASH tent in somewhere possibly or something.
so there are also some of the 24 are county residents, but some are within the base.
What's that again?
Some are members of the military, they go to Madigan. So out of the 24, some are related to the military. I cannot reveal too much.
I talked to a doctor from Madigan, gosh, I guess all the way back to Sunday or Monday, and they only had 5 cases then. One of them was hospitalized and 4 were not. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't know,
Staying in touch.
because obviously the military hospital hosts residents from King, Pierce, and Thurston counties.
yes.
So, so that's what, out of the 24 cases, I don't know the number, but some,
Well, I just think it behooves us to start paying attention to, as we move into this potential spike that they're talking about, instead of the
I'll ask the
flatten
question.
out the curve, I think it's worth looking into.
Oh, I'll ask the question, yeah.
Make sure we're utilizing all areas of care that we can.
I asked Kurt Harden, he's in constant contact with JBLM. And I was asking him about, I asked about a man's unit, but asked about supplies, if they had supplies, are they a resource for us? And when we get to that time, we're gonna get a military ship, a Navy ship coming in. They said, no, the JBLM are hunkering down and taking care of their own because they've got to protect their soldiers and the men who went to their own base, because you never know when they're needed, and they have to maintain their own. So when it comes to a MASH, I don't know if that's an option or not. but I don't know if the hospitals are full and what they're full of. But the expectation, I understand, is to build some type of a site or have a site available to put the typically people that are being hospitalized into those sites that are stabilized. So if there is a spike or when there's a spike in COVID, there's a place for them to go if they're not sheltering in place or if they're sick enough they need hospitalization. And I don't have any idea what those numbers would look like or be. I think Kurt might have that. I have no idea.
Well, Shelley mentioned those 4 field hospitals that are being set up by the state. I don't know how much access I mean, I assume that would be flexible based on the need. If it's,
Right,
it could be
right.
Thurston, it could be other counties.
Yeah, it is a couple, I think up north is right now is where they have the most need.
And that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've had activation of our own guard unit here, which would cover some of that activity.
Right.
I just think that, I've not made it critical, but I think we're gonna try and keep these meetings to the fewest number that we can during this and still try to cover business. So I would like to have our Director of Public Health at least having you filled in or have her available so that we can ask these questions and kind of be kept up to speed, because it could turn into an issue. I would hope it doesn't.
I agree with you 100%. One thing that I've just been really nervous about is that disconnect. Like, it's like, how big of a surge will start to overwhelm our capacity? So when Ramiro texted me and said 10 new cases, well, is that a problem or not? Like, what's the number? Is it 99? Is it 117? At what point is Thurston County's hospital capacity going to be overwhelmed?
Right, that's what I'm concerned.
And that number may change as we get, as we get maybe a mobile place somewhere, but we should have that number like at our fingertips to me and see, because that's what we're being told is the pinch point for this whole thing is hospital capacity, but yet I don't have any sense sitting here today of how many more cases we could take on with being worried.
Yeah, and
That's understood.
all of those are good points. And I agree with you that these meetings are few in between and needs to be productive. But also, if you have any questions leading to any of the meetings that you have, please let me know so we come prepared to provide the answers to your questions.
Well, I mean, that's kind of.
That's what we're talking about.
I got some good information, so.
In advance.
Yeah, so, and give me, if you have any concerns, any questions, give me in advance, so I'm prepared to answer those questions. Because you ask the questions, I don't have the answers, and, even perhaps if Shelley and Kurt are here, may not have the answer, so.
Well, just like, we got that information yesterday about 10 more. Well, 10 more, okay, that's a number, but are 7 of those being treated at home and self-isolating, and they're 30 years old, not likely to be a detriment to the situation, or are, how many are in the hospital?
See, that would have been perfect for you to follow up with an email with me, to me, asking those questions, and I will be bringing those information to you.
Okay,
And Kirk has been on the phone.
Well, but now we got 2 commissioners here with that same concern, probably 3.
Well, but again, that's an example, but if, I'm trying to keep you up to date.
Yeah.
But if you have questions related to the information that I provided to you, please let me know.
Well, the numbers have been so low that I haven't, I know that we're not there yet, but it's just been apprehension on my part of like, okay, when I start to see 75 cases, 175 cases, when do I have to be feeling like, we gotta be like, Governor Cuomo in New York, screaming on the television about getting us some help and ventilators and all that, when are we gonna be at that point?
Yeah, this is a good question. I'll follow
I
up.
have no sense of it.
I'll
When you
follow up.
text me 10 and I send you a grimace,
That's what I did too. You probably got
rather
three the
than
same
the big
emojis.
giant eyes, like, panic. I'd love that information.
Yeah.
I know you don't have it, I'm hoping Kurt does.
So, and just for the viewing public, when I send information to you, it's transitional information.
Yeah.
You do not conduct business via text. It's just for me, it's just to send a flash news to you for you to be aware. And again, if you have any follow-up questions for me, please put in an email and I will follow up.
Okay. You have another one, Commissioner?
I do.
Go ahead.
Where are we at on looking at the jail issue, and, I know we've got contracts out, we got that at our last meeting.
I talked to Mel this morning about the jail.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I am still concerned that we've got that empty juvenile jail over there. I think, yes, we can talk about this on the 24th, but we'll overwhelm the 24th here pretty quick, just talking about this topic if we don't watch out. So I think we need to be thinking about a fix. We need to fix that. We're underutilized. Maybe we might need that jail space over there for bed space or something at some point, if it gets bad enough. I mean, St. Martin's has a infirmary over there that we might have to use. But that all comes together with this information as this hopefully does not spike. I'm hoping that we keep that curve down, you know. But
Are you suggesting it could be overwhelmed with COVID, that we would put effective people in the juvenile facility?
not with juveniles, obviously, but we've only got 6 or 7 over there.
Yeah.
So we've got 80 empty beds. That bothers me, that we have 80 empty beds over there. We need to start utilizing that, because we're gonna be telling the public we're spending X number of millions of dollars to add less than 80 beds over at the adult facility.
20 million.
Well, I mean, however many. I never go by what the number is laid out, because it's never the number that's laid out. It's generally.
20 million doesn't count the shell, doesn't count the entire building, right? Yeah.
So I just think we need to start looking into this, as being responsible stewards of the cash for the taxpayers. Something's gotta happen here.
It's an interesting dilemma. You have that space that is, from what I understand, tightly restricted as what you can use it for because of juveniles. And you have a vast amount of space that's unused. It's usable, but unused. What do you do with it where you can commingle or co-mix or get around the restrictions that are placed on it being a juvenile detention facility? When you're having, you're scrunched over here and need to expand, but you have this expansion here. It makes sense.
I mean, the bottom line is we cannot use it with juveniles over there, but they're occupying quite a facility for just a few kids.
And you've suggested moving them somewhere else.
Somewhere else is what that's what I'm still pushing for, that we do something. I don't care if we put them in a tent with a ball and chain. I really don't care. We need to do something to free that space up so that we can utilize it.
But we won't be putting up the intent with a ball and chain. We won't be doing that.
But that might get some attention drawn to it if we did
Because
that.
you
huh?
do that, then you still have all the family court and all the other issues.
Well, that isn't
Need
a
to be dealt
problem. That's not near the problem as housing juveniles and adults. We get those juveniles out of
with.
there.
Not near the problem, but it's still an issue, it needs to be addressed.
It's an issue, but it's not much of an issue in comparison.
Us?
Well, this is going back to a previous topic. The whole, for me, the value of the proposal hinged on the cost savings, which, and you had an alternative, you said, I remember you saying that you didn't necessarily agree that it was gonna cost what the memo that we got said it was gonna cost. You said, let's build this thing over here for $1 million or whatever. But what I remembered in terms of numbers I had in staff prepared memo was that when you added the cost of changing the juvenile facility into what it would be needed, and then you added in operational costs of having the sheriff now operating corrections in 2 separate facilities, the number of additional and doing food service and having more female corrections to do all the things that he explained very well that would increase the general fund operational cost, it wasn't gonna save any money. So, I was only interested in it, I wasn't interested in it to just, you seem to have an interest of like, I wanna fill beds that we built that are just, it's just aggravating, and I'm.
No, I don't wanna build
Yeah.
this new thing we're talking.
Well, I guess I don't have an aggravation about, it's not, I wanna fill it just to fill it. I only wanted to fill it if it was gonna save us a lot of money. And I just, and the staff and the sheriff's input and everything just didn't make me feel we were gonna save any money. We're just gonna disrupt the juvenile court and the juvenile family court, and I'm willing to do that. if it was gonna save us a bunch of money. The judges wouldn't like it, but I'm willing to say we gotta do it, cause we have limited resources. But you gotta show me that it's gonna save us a ton of money. If you can show me that, I am willing to look at the juvenile court judges and juvenile, probation administrator and say, hey, I'm sorry, but we have to make do with what we have. But it wasn't showing that it was penciling out to be money savings.
It was a capacity issue for the sheriff. And when he talked against it, I thought, well, I hadn't thought about that, the capacity issue that he would have.
So as a point of clarification, the record shows there was a unanimous vote from the board to continue with the project with the flex unit.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, so-
And that's
It was,
because,
but Commissioner Edwards and I were not happy about it, one bit. It was
But
clear.
you
Made
came
that
from
clear.
different directions. You came
Yeah,
from different
and we-
directions
none of us
for
wanted
the
to
same
do it.
conclusion. Yeah.
and I don't want it just as empty space so we can go arrest people. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a solution. Yeah, we have to go ahead. If nothing else, we got litigation issues breathing down our neck. I believe, as this COVID thing moves forward, that might get pushed to the back burner at some point. I don't know that. But I'm not in favor of spending, we're talking 20 million. That's not gonna do it in all reality. I've been around this job for so long. I've seen the government go over every time. I can't even come up with one example that they did it under budget and really.
Didn't the jail actually come in under budget? Yeah.
Well, that's because they quit building on that because of the economic times of the recession of 2000 and what?
Only phase one was built.
It was phase one, it never got going. I can't give you that answer, but I can only ask that staff revisit, okay, what happens if let's just build a house with 8 bedrooms in it on a single floor, little rooms. Those kids can stay in those rooms. I don't know what it's gonna cost, but we can find out. Everything that we've been presented up until today has had inflated prices in it, in my estimation, everything. And it all had to do with building a new jail and new courthouse. Downtown Lincoln. We're not there anymore. Let's move forward with some common sense approaches and realistic approaches to see if we can get away from having to do this big project over here and just move, put all these beds for adults. I realize you got 2 spaces, it's not effective. Olympia's talking about they need some space. Well, maybe we can partner up with them and they cover half the cost. If we didn't have juveniles over there, that gives us a lot of options. 80 extra beds gives us lots of
So
options.
just for the record, it was a unanimous vote on the jail, on the flex unit. And my concern.
Under duress, I might add, with both of us.
And my concern was if you build it, you're gonna fill it. If we put 40 beds, if we put 80 beds, it's gonna be filled, it's gonna be full in no time. And I'm of the philosophy, I don't care what the issue is, you can't arrest your way out and incarcerate people out of your problem because that costs a ton of money and doesn't always work. Now, however, as I recall, it was because of the True Blood decision, and we have men and women in jail that are not being tended to, and there was a threat of a lawsuit from Disability Rights of Washington to there's people in the general population can't be in the pod unit, they have to be segregated and watched and for their own protection. And that's what kind of forced me into that issue as well, because at 20 million or 40 million, 40 beds or 80 beds, it's a ton of money. And again, if you build them, we'll fill it. I have no doubt we'll fill it.
Well, that's why I wanna fill it with, I won't feel so bad about filling it if we're filling it with folks from Lacey, Tumwater.
Regional jail.
Well, you're not
Would be
with-
arrested and incarcerated anyway.
Right.
We're not filling it with, so that's why I'm
That's the
really,
whole
At
region.
the same time, we're diverting people from jail.
yeah.
Remember?
I'd just like to make a point of clarification in terms of the numbers in any cost estimate the staff provides. Point of clarification, staff does not inflate the numbers to put the board in a position to put a certain decision. I respectfully disagree with that comment. And we have provided estimates based on the best of our abilities. And the numbers that we provided at that time were low, yes. And that is why the flexion increase in cost. As any other alternative that we provided to the board, most likely are bound to increase. So I do respectfully disagree with that comment.
Oh, that will be over budget?
No, the staff brings inflated estimates
Oh,
to the
inflated estimates,
board
okay.
to put the board in a difficult position to make a decision.
And I can understand it being, we have a lot of projects come in over budget, if we do, because of material costs, or because of labor costs, or because of this cost or delays, but not because we're being lied to or manipulated by staff. I don't believe that.
No, and I'm not referring to just what the county's doing. I'm talking about government in general has a very poor history of getting it right. Look at the tunnel up in Seattle.
Well, you do have a point.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm generalizing. I'm not laying the blame on anybody. I'm just stating the facts. That government has a very poor record of doing things correctly and on budget, I guess.
I just have this vision of staff watching and saying, we didn't do that.
No,
So, yeah, I agree with
it's a very
that.
generalized
That's
statement. And so I don't have a lot of faith in government getting it right, and it bothers me. I was against that $100 million jail sitting over there, but it's over there.
Yeah, it's there.
And it's sat empty for about 6 years. I think that in itself was a disaster. I realize we fell on hard times, the economy slipped and such. But regardless, I laid out that they didn't have a plan at the time they built it, so. And the citizens, I think, feel the same way, because they voted on an issue in 2004.
Yep, it went down.
And the citizens said no. But yet, the government went ahead and did that. So I want to explore doing things right. That's what I'm coming.
Another issue,
Then I'll come back to you.
related to, since we're on the jail, I'd asked Ramiro that at some point we could have a meeting with Chief Toma, and I'd like to just know if we get a half dozen COVID, 19 cases in the jail, what's the plan?
Let me see if I can secure, he can join us on next Tuesday morning.
Okay, that'd be great. It doesn't have to be a long discussion. I get asked and I get uncomfortable when I don't know the specifics, and I think the board should hear kind of what we're gonna do.
On the COVID, can I
Yeah.
piggyback on that?
That was really all. I
Just
just
talking jail and COVID, so that brings me down to Maple Lane. Where are we at? I know that was designated as a just in case. I don't know where we're at on that. I haven't heard anymore. I know it's a state issue.
Yeah. So they brought some mobile units, trailers, and I believe they also bring in some mobile structures. So that is not activated, but as far as I understand, will be activated if the need arises. So it has already been
Again,
designated.
that depends on this peak or not.
Right.
Kind of the concern
Yeah,
we
yeah,
were raising.
And
Okay,
it's, and that's,
but I do think it's worth keeping track of that too, so I'm glad you knew that.
and there's a hot topic on the code amendment as well, right now.
Well, again, going back to what the need is more important than the code amendment. If we need it, I think we're gonna do it.
Well, it's not, it's the state.
No, I think
No,
it's two different issues.
I know,
if I make
I know,
mentions.
I know.
So,
We're gonna
yeah,
have to short circuit some things if things get tight. If we really get in a pickle, I'm not gonna wait for a couple months to, do something. As far
No.
as my position.
No,
Different
so the site that has already been furnished to respond to this emergency, that will be activated as soon as the state sees the need. The code amendment is different. The code amendment is changing the long term, the use of that facility.
Right.
and that's what's a hot topic down at Grand Mountain. And that's gonna come back to us in April, late April?
Well, we've got a schedule for next week to begin the conversations, but I need to check with Josh to see if we can continue with that process, because as you know, that topic has a lot of public interest,
Yeah.
and perhaps this setting may not be adequate to to bring the public as part of that.
I was on a phone call for 30 minutes this morning on that topic.
So, so let me touch base, with Josh as to what he's planning to do in terms of
Okay.
follow up with it.
I had the videotape on mine, the defense, blah, 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 and United Way and Chris Wells and Mindy Rule, you got that taken care of in the jail. I'll just bring one more thing up to let you know, it doesn't take a decision, but let you know that things are so fluid and moving so rapidly that this is regarding the Community Investment Partnership, which is at the HHSC now. This email is from Tom Webster, and it's to the whole group regarding the CIP grants that run through June 30th of this year. Many of the nonprofits are struggling these days to remain operational. The executive team would like to provide CIP grantees with the flexibility to use CIP funds as the grantees see fit to ensure their continued operations, even if that means using funds for a purpose outside the original intent of the grant. Unless there are any objections raised by
We just had a legal opinion on this.
And we do have a legal opinion on it. Is that what you asked?
No, we just went in a different funding, but go ahead.
Okay. To take the steps necessary to give the grantees the flexibility. And so they're looking for, Tom is looking for the CIP group to weigh in by this Friday. What's today, Thursday? What's today, 26th? Okay, wait, today's the 26th, tomorrow's the 27th. And so I had him check in with Elizabeth to find out, can we do that? Can we not do that? What's the scoop?
What did Elizabeth?
What did Elizabeth said?
Because I know the answer I got.
Well, we got an answer on that specifically.
Let me hear it.
No.
Okay, then. You're not gonna tell me?
No.
That was
The answer is no. You cannot take a specific grant funded dollars that is specific purpose and deviate it to another purpose.
No, we cannot do that.
We just went through this morning, even under this emergency.
Even a concern about using restricted funds in the way those funds were intended. So there's, our grantors cannot take money that was intended for one particular purpose and use it for something else.
Well, and that is the reason I asked Tom to check with Elizabeth. I want this to get legal, looking at it first before we just say, yeah, go ahead.
That was who I asked.
You type in her name.
And I further, part of the question we got was from the BHA on the use of TSD funds for administrative leave. And the answer was no, we cannot pay, and it was, Elizabeth's response was specific to restricted funds. But I have now tossed out a question to the Financial Management Committee because she went on to say that we would need to look at each of our contracts and see if it serves a public purpose if we were to pay something and would we be in violation of the gift of public funds. I also found an AG opinion from 2006 that I haven't shared with her yet that raises a similar concern.
Oh.
So if we don't receive a good or service, we can't pay for something that we don't get. And so far, we haven't found anything in the emergency proclamation that would allow us to do that, other than the salaries of our employees.
I found the email I was looking for from Tom. And it says that I asked him to check with the attorney on this question. She advised me that if the HHSC wanted to grant greater flexibility on the use of funds, we would need to, 1, inform the HHSC to see if there's any objections. Number 2, get BOCC approval to amend the contracts. And 3, issue contract amendments as the scope of work will have changed. This is not a simple process or answer I was hoping for, but one we can follow as directed. That's not a no.
But I don't know, if the question was asked on the color of the money behind those contracts.
Okay.
And that's the fundamental difference, because depending on the funding source, because the question, as I understand, was clear, right? It's simple. If this is the contract, if they can use on other functions, yeah, you amend the contract. And I believe that's what Elizabeth is saying. You amend the contract, but the fundamental question will be the color of the money, the funds, those functions. Those are the strings attached that perhaps it may be difficult.
Right.
So perhaps Tom need to follow up with Elizabeth, specifically asking what are the funding sources that we have, whether those funding sources allow for that flexibility.
Okay.
I guess the part of my question would become, what is it that the contractors want to spend the money on? Because if it's a legitimate expense for the type of money that we're using, then you might want to approve that as stated in a contract amendment. But, if it's not a legitimate expense against the type of money that's being used, then the answer is no.
And depending on what the organization is, they may have received grant money for food and for lodging or for whatever, other basic needs. But now they want to divert that to rental assistance.
Right.
Or they want to divert it from rental assistance to food.
Right.
And I believe that's what it is. Now, I obviously don't care much for that. They use it as see fit. Right. I'm going to buy a new copy machine. No, that's not what it's for.
Commissioner, would you like me to follow up with Tom?
Would you please? I was starting to write notes on this for Tom.
I'll follow up with Tom.
Oh, Tom, thank you. But we'd like to allow the grantees the flexibility under these conditions. Doggone, help people. But it has to be done legally.
That's right. And it's my understanding that for the HHSC, the type of money that's granted, or under the CIP, the type of money is selected to fit the purpose. So part of the money's coming from the home program, and part of the money is CDBG. Some of the money is our reporting fees, and each one of those funding sources has its own set of what you can charge against that. And when you make grants to the community providers, it's the money's coming from a place that'll pay for what you're awarding. So if they're gonna use it for something else, maybe you need to rethink what kind of money we're providing, or maybe it's, you gotta think of all those things. And I hate that red tape gets in the way of providing the services that people need in the time of crisis. But if we don't pay attention, we're gonna be in worse shape a year from now.
Do you have enough time to do that?
I'll call him. No, I'll call him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That exhausts my list, other than you were gonna bring this up too, all three of us got the department, the HUD letter about the $1.2 million CDBG and the Home Investment Partnership money.
I just noticed in the,
But you have another issue?
I just noticed in the second paragraph, it said, based on your your jurisdiction's allocation for this year, you also have 6 million in available section 108 borrowing authority. This was something that Anna Schlecht at the City of Olympia asked me about. Why don't we ever take advantage of the borrowing authority from the CDBG money?
That's the case. We have to pay back.
And so I just didn't know how this worked.
It's a float loan, is what they call it, a float loan. You've got special authority, but you've gotta have a way to pay the money back,
Phase
because it's
two,
loan.
phase two.
It's
You
loan.
ever heard me talk about phase two?
Let me guess.
Used to use that mechanism at the state.
That's right.
You've gotta have a way to pay it back.
It's a very low interest loan, I believe, but it still has to be a mechanism to pay back.
Even if there's no interest, we don't have
To
the
pay
ability to pay back.
And the ability to pay back comes from who you loan it to, not government necessarily paying it back.
Okay, clear for me now.
Yeah, we used to use, so for example, at the state, we used CDBG to make grants to utility for improving a water system,
Low
if
income,
you will. Yeah,
but the low income.
and
Septic, we did some.
Yep.
Septic.
it took so long for them
If
to
it's low
spend that
income.
money that we had enough of what they call float loans, that we could loan the money to some other entity who would pay it back before we had to pay the water company to cover their costs of construction. But who you loan it to has to be able to pay it back. I'm sorry. it was
So
not very
she's right, because every year we receive that letter, and every year we get that, that option of,
Well, we can, yeah, I'll think more about that. One really should be an easy question, but is the courthouse, the 25 years in the law, is that a clock, is that a clock that's ticking? Or is
No,
it something that,
that starts to tick when it's passed.
okay, that's what I thought, but a lot of people were suggesting to me that it was, the time clock was
No,
ticking on that.
it's
Like, I just wanted to make sure I had
when you
appropriate
start
understanding of
to
that.
collect the money, that is the year.
And we'll have that if we do it in 10 years, or if
That's
we do it in,
correct.
okay, just
Yep,
making sure.
doesn't matter. We
Yeah.
do have to collect the money beginning the year following the vote.
Go ahead.
I'm assuming we're gonna come out of this at some point and be back to business here before too long.
oh, the emergency, yeah.
Even the meeting, I think
The
it was
emergency.
7 minutes.
I would like to at least think about, staff's concerns, maybe when they come back to work. And could we, and I see we don't have it over here, I just ran over to look just to see if somebody put something up. The possibility of maybe putting a plexiglass shield on the countertops where staff will be interacting face to face with citizens. And, I mean, it can be up off the counter.
Grocery stores now.
Are they doing it in grocery stores?
Yep.
Okay, well,
Albertsons.
anyway, I mean, let's
Screen
plan that we are gonna open and possibly all of our public counters where that type of activity is taking place. I think it'd be a pretty simple, just a couple of stand-up things and a plexiglass there and open on the bottom to slide paperwork back and forth. And somebody sneezes or something and it's not right on the staff.
Right.
So, coughs or whatever. So could we look at that as far as a possibility to get
No.
in place before we come back to work?
My project managers are working from home. I will task one of
Yep.
them to look at this.
I was at Albertsons yesterday, and right there by the little pad for your credit cards and debit card is a screen. You see the checker, but you're talking to him and her through the screen.
Yeah, just a little protection for our
protection, yeah.
staff,
Yeah.
to,
Little
I'll
sneeze
ask
card.
Because they-
what that would take. It
they-
sounds simple, but it might not be.
oh God, it
I'm
doesn't have
sorry.
to be complicated.
Bulletproof.
I mean,
It has
yeah,
to
it doesn't have to
be-
be bulletproof, anything.
No,
Just-
but it has to be built in a way that it's not gonna fall on someone.
Oh, yes, I know, let's not over-engineer it.
And
From an engineer's
fire
perspective,
code.
No,
I really don't care if you
I
make
was
it out
thinking
of
about that, but they didn't say
It's
it.
just-
Asbestos.
Yes. Please don't overdo it.
You have another issue?
Let's protect
I
our staff.
will instruct them to find the most simple way.
The 5% for the deputies, when did that take effect?
Wednesday.
Yeah, so yes, I talked with Chief Heidi Thompson, she's coding it, putting it in the system
I
right
asked
away.
her
Okay.
to track it carefully.
Yep, I had
Through
last
April
45-minute
6th.
conversation.
Through April 6th.
Yeah, hopefully we're gonna be out of this pretty quick, or maybe we'll have to extend it, I don't know. It'll give us some incentive to get out of this.
You'll have to hear KXXO tomorrow when they play that happy news I gave Dick Bruce at the end.
Okay. Did we hear any more? There was some comment made yesterday by an applicant and the doctors we were interviewing about a problem, was it up in Skagit or
Welcome.
Whatcom? Like 30 people were diagnosed all of a sudden, and I didn't pick up on any of that on the news.
Nope.
Did any of you?
I was, is it the internet? Because I didn't, after that,
Because, well,
So it did happen?
no, King 5 News, none of the news That would have been a
Well,
big
I
news.
think that'd be
It
big
is on the
The
news.
30 out of 30 would have been,
That's a news break.
So it was something like 25, the residents out, 25 out of
38 or
38
something like that.
residents and 11 employees.
so is that a fact?
Yeah, up in Bellingham.
Well, that's a fact because you saw it on the internet.
It's on the internet with all the details. Yeah, it was pretty.
I'm
it was
curious why the
breaking
news didn't cover that as an issue.
No.
That's a good question, but it was breaking news 2 days ago.
And undoubtedly, those are all senior citizen type individuals that are pretty much a threat, yes. Now, I'm just curious, I wanted to verify what that gentleman said. Is all I was-
I did too.
Oh, is that right? We both have the same,
I couldn't find anything.
okay, so.
Listen. Maybe piano music?
Some kind of music's coming through.
Is the conference call?
Oh, it's the hold music, okay. I thought someone's playing the piano or something, okay. Go ahead, Gary, another one, do you have another one, Ty?
I got a couple more if you wanna get into them, but they're gonna.
I got
take
an
more
animal
than
one,
4:30.
but I'll save it for Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, no, pick a quick
It's
one.
not a time sensitive.
There is no quick one. All these are pretty complicated issues and we're done here in about
Well, county business is
No,
complicated.
90 seconds or so.
Looking at tomorrow's schedule, are we here tomorrow? Or are we not?
Nothing on,
Olympic Tumwater Thurston County meeting,
nothing on the combined schedule.
is that the cities, the county meeting, is that over the phone? Or is that in person,
No, it's a video conference.
video? And are you part of that?
Yes, I will participate.
You can do it here?
Uh,
Are you doing it from home? Where are you doing it?
I'm doing from here in my office, but
Okay. I'll do
but
it.
if you like, we can probably have it here.
No, I have, my computer's at home, my laptop, I'll do it at home. It's just a 1 hour gig. And that webinar. After that, on COVID-19. Well, that's interesting, wonder what that will be. Okay. Anything, words of wisdom before we depart? Anything you need from us?
Hmm.
Any parting shots?
I guess not.
Anything?
Oh,
Rob?
well, I tell you, yeah, one more thing. Have you heard me say that before?
Just one more thing.
I would like to see that we're moving forward to getting some answers about possibilities about those empty beds over at juvenile. I don't know what that is, but I'd like to see a proposal come forward to us to make a decision. How can we address that? I mean, let's not just talk about it and not do anything about it. Let's talk about it and get something rolling here.
Who would be the right person for that? Central Services?
Well, we've got some freed up,
Or the jail or the court? Probably the court.
Well, I thought that we had at one point asked the juvenile administrator for, would be coming forward with options on how we might use that space.
okay, well, everybody
That are not necessarily for adult inmates.
I know they're not for it. I don't much care. I'm not working for those folks. I'm working for the citizens here in the county and I wanna get it right.
So let me understand what you're asking for, because if you are asking for an analysis on how to use that space for adult inmates, I will update what we have given you already. But if you are looking for alternatives on how to use that space so that it is not empty space, then we can work on the street.
That's what I'm hearing. But why don't, is that what you want? Just a list of ideas? What we're
Well,
gonna do
or
with that space?
possibly, I don't know, move a couple of mobiles or something over there, put the kids in those. I don't know the answer.
What I think we don't need is making it a facility that would have juveniles and adults. Because that's what's been
We have
explored, that's
already
what's prohibitively
explored that.
explained.
And that's
We
over.
have already
And that's a
explored
non-starter.
moving the kids somewhere else.
You what?
We have already given you information on if we move the kids out and make it 100% an adult facility.
I don't recall.
I will be happy
Yeah,
to
that was
bring
that was
back.
part of that was part of my memorandum that we provided to you in a couple of occasions, not to you, to the board.
But that brings us back to Commissioner Mentzer's observation that the jail is now running 2 facilities and the savings are not there. But I would be happy to bring that forward.
So I'm looking at alternatives.
Cause you have to look at
every space.
operational savings as well as capital.
Yes,
I mean, that's, you gotta put the whole picture
And
together.
think about a regional concept along with it.
I think
I
that's
would
the
love to hear
answer.
more about the regional meeting.
And where we at on the,
Yeah.
where we at on the military end of things down here on the old jail?
I have been in contact with the military. Just after I left on vacation, I received a letter or an email from Mr. Hobbs saying they were no longer interested. And then I got another when I just got back saying that the numbers that they are projecting are far less than they had originally thought. They would like to leave a lease possibility of our old jail on the table. However, they are making efforts to have what they're calling a blanket authorization and with some other jail for the very few people who they incarcerate. And that it will take approximately 8 months to work through that. So the using about half or a third of our jail space is no longer an option that they're interested in. If they take any of it, it will be a much smaller area and it'll be 8 months before we know.
One more
Wow.
thing, real quick. We had an offer about, I don't know how long ago. A group came in and said, hey, we'll paint this all the way around, make it look nice.
I have followed up, I assigned that to one of the project managers. Both I and he reached out to the two gentlemen who gave us their contact information. I have not heard back from them and I will ask him if he has heard back from them, but we tried to follow up with
I don't
them.
know. Just wondering, we're not going anywhere now.
Right.
We're gonna be here several more years. Let's try and spruce it up a little bit around here.
We did reach out to those gentlemen and I'll let you know if we heard anything back, and if not, I'll give you their contact information.
Except we are leaving now.
Okay, we're done.
Thank you for watching. We're done for the day. We're adjourned. Look at this.
It's
Thank you,
never
gentlemen.
enough time, though. Never and never.
No, 'cause issues keep popping up and